Hello, my name is Francisco Perez and I am part of Before Purpose team. Today with Fred Yongavi, we will review how a sustainable supply chain can impact SMEs material expenses across all the value chain. We will give a brief definition of the supply chain management concept and a number of methodologies that can be used by SMEs to increase their sustainability, resilience. At the same time, they reduce cost. As we can see, supply chains include tasks from raw materials until the final logistic to the customer, depending, of course, of the company. Other definitions also include reverse logistics. Now, if we want to talk about sustainable supply chain, we have to incorporate the triple bottom line in the definition. So the final definition is sustainable supply chain management as the management of the material, information, and capital flows, as well as cooperation among companies along the supply chain, while taking goals from all three dimensions of sustainable development: economic, environmental, and social, into account, which are derived from customer and stakeholders' requirements. If we think about how we can reduce material expenses, probably the first things that we can figure out is the reduction of the quantity of the raw material used to create the product and the packaging to send it to the customer. And this is correct. And the area of the supply chain involved in this part is production and manufacturing. The importance of this area is paramount within the value chain. For instance, according to the OECD 2018, worldwide consumption of raw materials will double by 2060 due to the expansion in the global economy and rising living economies standards. Besides, SMEs represent a big portion of the economy. For example, in the European economy, they represent around 99.8% of all companies and 2/3 of the employment. Then the impact of the companies can be ignored. Because there are several industries and different kinds of companies, there is no one solution that fits all. To help companies on Before Purpose, we have detected some methodologies that can be used according to the specific necessities of the companies. The first one is probably the most common and well known, and is called clean production. Clean production is an integrated preventive actions that can be applied in the production process to improve efficiency and reduce adverse effects on human and the environment. Clean productions will increase the efficiency of the use of raw material, energy, and prevent the use of hazardous and toxic materials, and reduce the amount and toxicity of all emissions and wastes before leaving the processing process. The clean production strategy is a key method for harmonizing economic interest and maintaining the environment. By implementing a clean production strategy in developing business, the SMEs can benefit from increases competitiveness and business activities, and doing sustainable at the same time. By considering environmental aspect in each production process activity on an ongoing basis, the company obtains economic benefits by increasing effectiveness and efficiency in all aspects. And finally, SMEs can reduce production cost and waste treatment cost and simultaneously reduce the occurrence of environmental damage and pollution. Some of the principles of clean productions are: reduce the consumption of raw materials and energy used in the production of one unit of products, increase productivity by ensuring more efficient use of raw materials, energy, and water, promotes better environmental performance through reductions of the source of waste and emissions, reduce the environmental impact of the product through their life cycle by design of environmentally friendly but cost-effective products, reduced at the source the quantity and toxicity of all emissions and waste generated and released, eliminate as far as possible the use of toxic and dangerous material. By applying the concept of clean production, natural resources can be more protected and utilized sustainably. The second methodology is material flow cost accounting. It is considered as a green productivity tool that identifies inefficiencies in the production process and can be utilized by SMEs to face issues relating to productivity enhancement, material uses, waste management, and sustainability. Its implementations will lead to an improvement in financial and environmental performance of the enterprise that will be maintained in long term. In short, as we can see in the picture, can be defined in 4 steps. First, draw a material flow chart, which basically identifies all used material to create the product. Then create a material balance, or asks the questions of what's going on outside the company, what is the trend of technology, and what is happening internally in the company with the materials and processes. Once you have a good quantity of information, it is time to do a brainstorm with the team and consider options. Finally, in step 4, compile all the options, evaluate it, and implement it. Of course, this sounds easy on paper, but it's important to have high management support and involvement to be successful. Some companies have a high impact on CO2 emissions, or maybe they are more interested to reduce their carbon footprints. A methodology to do it is the life cycle assessment, or LCA, that enables the quantification of the contribution of different methods of productions to greenhouse emissions, and is evolving towards a new and additional impact category for life cycle impact assessment. It allows at the end a comparison of the carbon footprint among different products as well as productions optimization, which typically result in the production cost reduction. LCA could showcase opportunities for input optimization, leading to greenhouse emissions and cost reduction. Finally, the carbon footprint is considered an indicator that could be easily perceived by customers. The next supply chain area is inbound and outbound logistics, which is a key part of the value chain that has an impact on the total cost of the product. As V4Purpose team, we have identified ways that the logistic optimization can impact material expenses reduction. Depending on the logistic of the company, a material flow chart can be used to determine the quantity of fuel, electricity, or gas used to move the material or products across the supply chain. We consider fuel, electricity, and gas as a raw material, since it has to be extracted and used to create or move a product. Now that we have quantified the energy amount required, we recommend 2 approaches. First, if my company is not an expert, maybe another company can do it better. In other words, outsourcing this process with a 3PL company can be an option to reduce cost and will lead to material reductions at the same time. If your company is not ready or doesn't want to outsource the fuel logistics or a part of the logistics, it is still possible to optimize the logistics. For instance, investment in a new technology in the fleets or using fleet optimization software. Those 2 approaches require an evaluation, and depending on the company, this responsibility should be on the procurement team. While investment in a new fleet can seem like a big investment, the total cost ownership can be lower at the end. This total cost ownership concept, TCO, is important to take responsible decisions. An easy example is an energy saver bulb that the cost of the bulb is higher than a normal one. However, if you calculate the consumption and the duration of the bulb, the investment makes sense. Besides, if the company decides to outsource the service, the relationship management with the supplier will be necessary to ensure the correct performance of the agreement. So procurement team again is very important. By focusing on sustainable development and implementing a sustainable logistics system, a company can positively impact its long-term performance objectives. A sustainable logistics system will enable a company to take steps to ensure its long-term performance objectives have a positive effect on the maximizing its profitability, minimizing environmental impact, and improving the community quality of life.
Procurement is one of the most important areas when a company is looking to reduce material expenses. All the areas of supply chain are related to procurement. For example, the supply of raw materials for the production and manufacturing is one of the first responsibilities of the procurement team. In general, expenses managed by the procurement area covers between 50 to 80% of the total cost. Our discussion in this section will focus on sustainable procurement. Sustainable procurement, including ethical and e-procurement, are fast-growing areas of interest in the corporate and government organizations. The importance of sustainable procurement has increased significantly in the past decade as society and customers are attaching more and more value to social and environmental standards. Although the main focus of procurement is still on cost reduction, companies that have started to integrate sustainability into their procurement processes are considering this when identifying and evaluating suppliers. Sustainable procurement is particularly relevant to purchasing and supply managers seeking to demonstrate environmental and social responsibility across the nexus of their supply chain networks and reflects a relatively new field of sustainability transition for both public and private organizations across the world. There already exists a number of sustainability standards for the integration of sustainability into an organization. So we already have standards such as the ISO 9001, the ISO 14001. However, the world's first international standard for sustainable procurement is the ISO 2400, which is a guideline that aims to help organizations develop and implement sustainable purchasing practices and policies. So the ISO 2400 provides guidance or guidelines for integrating sustainability into an organization's procurement processes. Sustainable procurement policies and practices are likely to emphasize reduction or reducing packaging and waste, assessing vendors on their environmental performance, the ability to develop eco-friendly products, and performance in reducing carbon emissions associated with transport of goods. Taking a more expanded view of the scope of sustainable procurement to include social, environmental, and economic aspects, a number of dimensions of normative sustainable procurement policies and practices pertaining to environmental management issues, employee diversity, work conditions, and human resources, human rights, occupational health and safety, philanthropy, community engagement, as well as local purchasing and support for small-scale suppliers are identified. By conducting a comprehensive research in the field of sustainable procurement, most of the data shows that sustainable procurement is highly focused on large organizations while small and medium-sized enterprises are rarely discussed in any research highlighting ethical and environmental responsible buying. This is surprising since SMEs are the backbone of most communities. For example, in the European economy, SMEs amount to about 99.8% of all companies and two-thirds of employment. As SMEs tend to integrate sustainability into their procurement process, some SMEs change their supplier selection criteria or processes to add more value to sustainability as a selection criteria. Other SMEs determine specific certifications that are necessary for them to continue being able to participate in tenders, introduce codes of conduct, and engage in local sourcing. Several studies have also shown that SMEs generally have fewer financial resources and know how to set up a sustainable procurement process than large organizations. The COVID-19 pandemic has added more strain to SMEs in achieving sustainable integration, and given the limited resources, SMEs are likely to have a disproportionate effect due to the pandemic. Sustainable procurement does not differ from the traditional procurement process and incorporate an initial stage to determine the effect of procurement action in terms of desired outcome that is both environmentally and socially benign. Other sustainable interventions that have been identified and incorporated through the various stages of the procurement process are shown below. The processes are planning and needs assessment of procurement activity. 2. Planning the requirements. 3. Requirement definition. 4. Sourcing. 5. Solicitation. 6. Evaluation and contracting. 7. Monitor and control. 8. Monitor and assess the desired outcome achieved. Additional procurement tips include the strategic partnership. This is very applicable in most situations when SMEs choose the right supplier, they save time and build trust. If you are dealing with a supplier as a strategic partner, you can talk openly with the supplier about your needs and spending constraints, and you can work together to fine-tune your process. It is a win-win for both you and the supplier, as they will have the benefit of a reliable customer, and the reliable business between you can improve efficiencies for everyone. Good relationships always give you better bargaining power and negotiation rates. So another tip is the streamlined process. So there is a number of IT software solutions available that can make procurement easy, slicker, and more transparent. Supply chain management softwares, integrated accounting, and enterprise resource planning systems, and supplier management systems are just a few examples. Leveraging the right technology can have an enormous influence on your organization's purchasing logistics and overall business performance. The next tip is to consider a consortium. So if SMEs cannot leverage the economies of scale that larger companies can enjoy, a potential solution to this is purchasing a consortia with other SMEs. Partnerships like these can yield significant discounts. So how can sustainable procurement help SMEs post the COVID-19 pandemic? This is a very interesting topic and important for SMEs, particularly at this moment because of the pandemic. SMEs have the potential to be an economic and employment engine after the crisis, but the effective government response now will be critical because most of the recovery of SMEs will depend on government response. The post-COVID world presents an opportunity to reinvest in a new way. Crises like this current pandemic always bring with them a degree of opportunity. And as a global economy starts to come back to life, there is a major opportunity for investment in more sustainable companies and industries that will be far more resilient against the future global disruptions. As economies rebound, sustainable procurement can help SMEs to minimize the pandemic's economic impacts, support communities, and create new opportunities. Sustainable procurement contributes to resilient, healthy, and just society, living within a safe operating space defined by the planetary boundaries, promoting good governance. Moreover, engagement with sustainable procurement practices facilitates organizational efficiencies and transparency, as well as compliance, financial savings, and a more productive work environment. Sustainable procurement policies and practices are likely to emphasize reducing packaging and waste, assessing vendors and environmental performance, ability to develop eco-efficient products, and performance in reducing carbon emissions associated with transport of goods. So, how can a company implement sustainable procurement? A recently published white paper by EcoVadis shows how we can use a 5 step guide for building a business case for sustainable procurement. So, this guide is intended to inspire and provoke SMEs and leaders so that they can make the most convincing case possible for their team and the company at large and to launch the sustainable procurement journey. So, the first point in the guide is building and quantifying your business case. This answers questions like how big is your supply footprint? Supply chains represents 50 to 70% of the sustainability footprint of most global companies, I would say. So the footprint will include things such as environmental, labor, human rights, and ethics. So how can you quantify your case? This will include several studies and white papers that help quantify your business case for sustainable procurement. The most common benefit and return on investments ROIs are found in the areas of cost saving, risk reduction, brand and reputation protection, and new value creation opportunities. So the second point in the guide is peer pressure. Benchmark your industry and competitors. Information about potential competitors may be found online. So look at internal alert signals. Research and identify key events. So research and identify key events or incidents related to CSR and your supply chain. Consider customer sustainability requirements. Talk to your customer sales and CSR teams. So recruit champions and early adopters to collaborate with you. So seek colleagues whom you can rally to help. You can look at the corporate responsibility and ESG functions.
Another area of the value chain is about locating their facilities or warehouse every time the companies start new operations. Location decisions are important because they affect an organization performance over many years. Changing the distribution network design affect some supply chain costs as inventories, transportations, facilities and handling, and information. In general, we can find 6 different distribution network design. For example, manufacturer storage with direct shipping, manufacturer storage with direct shipping and in-transit merge, distributor storage with package carrier delivery, distributor storage with last mile delivery, manufacturer distributor storage with customer pickup, and finally retail storage with customer pickup. Each one has some strength and weakness, and the implementations depend on the nature of the company. One methodology that can reduce the inventory quality managed by companies, therefore it has a direct impact on the quantity of raw material, is the just-on-time approach for planning the inventory. A quick win for SMEs that cannot afford staff investigation on the efficiencies of their inventory is to look at vendor-managed solution, such as a consignment stock or vending machine. It's not ideal for every environment. Working with your suppliers to set up the stock levels and replenishment frequencies will help you switch from just in case to just on time. Another concept related to the inventory is the impact of the bullwhip effect to estimate the demand for the product. This issue is a distortion of the demand estimation by external factor. In another word, a communication problem that can lead to companies producing more and later can reach the same level, creating a stock problem. Besides, if we consider energy as a raw material, the potential of reduced expenses on warehousing is more important. For instance, UK SMEs currently spend over 7 billion of pounds a year on gas, but if they change supplier, they could save up to 2 million pounds. So this point again is related to procurement. Finally, investment in new technology for energy saving and considering the option of 3PL warehousing can be an option to reduce energy costs and therefore raw material expenses. At the end of the value chain, we can find reverse logistics. This process can be a return or a recovery of a product at the end of the life cycle. In Before Purpose, we see one of the most relevant methodologies that can be implemented by SMEs to increase sustainability and reduce material expenses is remanufacturing. Some advantage of remanufacture are that company can obtain higher profit margins because remanufactured products often have higher profit margin than the original manufactured items. Very important, reduce raw material consumptions as remanufacturing preserve much of the material in the original product, then less raw material is used on the new product. This is particularly beneficial where the product contains critical raw materials. Also help to reduce energy consumptions, reduction in CO2 emissions, and reduction of materials sent to landfill. Studies have shown that remanufacturing can reduce new material requirement by between 80% and 98%. Refurbishing saves slightly more materials, on average between 82% and 99%. Repair save between 94% and 99%. And also can reduce the cost between 15% and 80% of comparing with the cost of an OEM new version of the product. The reality is remanufacture represent a huge opportunity for small manufacturing and engineers businesses. Yet surprisingly, few engineers and SMEs, engineers, business owner and manager have even heard about it. Remanufacturing is related to the circular economy as well. Furthermore, it can impact waste reduction. A clear example is the textile industry use vast quantity of water and chemical and produce huge amount of toxic waste, which is a major problem in some countries like China, India, Thailand, Vietnam. But a company called Dye-Ku have developed a process of dyeing clothes that use no water at all and no chemicals, other than they dye themselves. Is use a highly pressure carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide then evaporate and is turned recycling and then used again. 98% of the dye is absorbed by the cloth, giving the color. And because the cloth doesn't need to dry, this process takes half of the time, uses less energy, and even costs less. Some companies already have partnership with this company, like Nike and IKEA. So we can see remanufacturing and implementing a circular economy perspective can improve sustainability of the company, and at the same time that the reduction on material cost can be obtained. Finally, it's important to say that those concepts are related to other supply chains areas, since the product have to be designed thinking on those concepts. As we saw during the presentation, several approaches can be implemented by SMEs to improve sustainability and reduce material expenses at the same time. The selection of the best approach according to the nature of the company is important, and furthermore, the extension of the supply chain and different areas can be very stressful. For this reason, on Before Purpose, we can help SMEs to tackle these issues, starting from the low-hanging fruit until more complex changes. Thank you for your attention, and please, if you have any question, don't hesitate to contact Before Purpose team.